Today's show is brought to you by Vorvita. After a stressful and uncertain year, do you sometimes feel it's time to rethink how you drink? Vorvita is a web-based program that uses clinically proven tools and techniques to help break negative behaviors and develop healthier responses. To learn more, go to us.vorvita.com.
This is your tech news briefing for Friday, August 20th. I'm Zoe Thomas for the Wall Street Journal. Most of us rely on our smartphones a lot. They're no longer just devices to ring up your friend or neighbor. Cell phones keep us connected to work, entertainment, and in constant contact with people, if we want to be. But with growing concern over tech addiction and the negative implications of using cell phones so much, some companies are offering a pared-down option: minimalist smartphones. On today's show, reporter Katie Dayton joins us to discuss why phones without all the apps and capabilities of smartphones are gaining traction. That's after these headlines. We report exclusively that Amazon, the company known for upending traditional retail with its e-commerce empire, plans to open several brick-and-mortar shops that resemble department stores. The company plans to open several large retail locations in the U.S., including in Ohio and California, as it looks to extend its reach in sales of clothes, household items, electronics, and other areas, according to people familiar with the matter. Amazon already has some physical stores and owns the grocery chain Whole Foods. But our reporter, Sebastian Herrera, says the new stores are a way for the company to reach as many customers as possible and learn even more about their shopping habits.
For Amazon, it's just another way, for people to see their products. So they have a lot of their own first-party products that they themselves make. And so for them, it's a way for people to see those products in person, be able to try them out, and just get different ways to reach the customer. And especially with introducing apparel in these stores, it'll be a way for Amazon to get that experience in seeing how people shop for apparel in person versus online, because shopping online for clothing, for example, is pretty difficult for most people, and Amazon can see a lot of returns in terms of clothing when people shop online. So apparel is a way to in person to see how that can be different and easier.
The head of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Gary Gensler, told the Wall Street Journal some decentralized finance, or DeFi, platforms may fall under his agency's oversight. DeFi is a new form of financial exchange for digital assets that lets users trade and lend cryptocurrencies without the involvement of middlemen like banks or regulators. But Gensler said platforms that reward participants with digital tokens or similar incentives could fall under SEC regulation.
This term decentralized finance has aspects of decentralization, but there's still a core group of folks that are not only writing the software like the open source software, but they have governance and fees. There's a governance token usually, not always. There's some fee structures. There's some incentive structures for those promoters and sponsors in the middle of this.
And the Federal Trade Commission filed a new version of its antitrust lawsuit against Facebook. Back in June, a judge dismissed an earlier version of the case, saying the FTC didn't provide enough allegations that showed Facebook had an unlawful monopoly in social media. In yesterday's revised suit, the agency sought to tell a more detailed story about Facebook's power in the marketplace. The FTC's decision to renew the case was supported by the agency's new chairwoman, Lina Khan, who, before joining the commission, had criticized big tech. Facebook had requested Khan recuse herself, but commission officials determined there was no reason she should sit out the case. Facebook said the lawsuit was meritless and there was no validity to the claim the company is a monopolist. All right, coming up, would you like your phone to be a little less smart? Minimalist phones may be the answer. We'll discuss after the break.
At ADP, we work with more than 860,000 companies worldwide. That gives us a pretty good idea of how to help businesses grow stronger. Whether it's through data insights that help you make informed decisions about building a team that works better as a team, or by keeping you ahead of thousands of changing regulations so you can keep ahead of everything else. Like building that better team. Grow stronger with ADP. HR, talent, time, and payroll.
Does this routine sound familiar? You wake up in the morning and turn off the alarm on your smartphone. You pick up your phone and check for any messages or emails that came in while you were sleeping. You use your phone to listen to music or a podcast, maybe even this one, as you're getting ready for your day. And then you open a GPS app to tell you the fastest way to get wherever you're going, while texting a friend to tell them you're on your way. Now imagine your phone could do none of those things. Imagine your cell phone was just a phone. Sound crazy? Well, that's the pitch from a handful of startups building minimalist phones. These companies are making phones that are designed to do as little as possible, stripping out excess features in the hopes of attracting users who are tired of all the bells and whistles and distractions that come with smartphones. Joining me to discuss this trend is our reporter, Katie Dayton. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Zoe.
I remember years ago having a little flip phone, and it couldn't do much. What's the difference between that and these new minimalist phones that are coming out?
So these minimalist phones, I would say the most important thing is they're coming out now at a time where phones, as we know, are basically little computers in our pockets. They are by design minimal in that they have stripped out everything that might be distracting about a regular smartphone. That's even down to a camera or even games. You can't play Snake on a minimalist phone. It's designed to purely communicate with the people you need to communicate with and then go straight back in your pocket so you can, in theory, enjoy life around you.
Can you describe what these phones look like? Will they look like the landlines many people had in their houses?
It's not too far away from your house phone. A couple of them have tangible buttons and a small screen, which is, of course, deliberate. That's, something that keeps your eye away from it. You're not going to be entranced by this thing the whole time. But no, they have taken design inspiration, I would say, from these classic feature phones and quite tactile, quite tangible in the way that you use them.
Katie, I can think of a few different groups who might want these phones. Older people, maybe parents who want to stay connected with their kids without giving them a smartphone. Is that who these minimalist phones are intended for, or are there other groups who might want them?
There are phones out there that are designed exactly for those groups that you mentioned, particularly older people. That will have a feature phone and the buttons will be quite large and the screen will be very sort of zoomed in, I suppose. These phones are really designed for those people that are a bit conscious or a little bit uncomfortable with how much their smartphones are taking over their lives or how much that they're sort of addicted to them. A lot of these company founders have had that experience themselves. One such founder, Petter Neby from Punkt, he is a Norwegian entrepreneur, and even back as far as the sort of early 2000s, the mid 2000s, he was realizing he was getting addicted to his BlackBerry. If you remember back then, we had the talk about the Crackberry. It was from then that he realized his emails were creeping into his family time at the weekend. He needed a way to be able to be contactable by the people that he wanted to contact him. But for work and things like that, he didn't want to be reached on a weekend. So he designed a phone that could do the very basics.
So that's a really interesting point. They have to strip away all of the navigation or the games, but we've become so reliant on these apps. How do they decide what to put in and what to take out while still attracting customers?
Absolutely. And that's their big sort of philosophical question that they have to grapple with. I think the thing is now, so much of what is a necessity is very subjective. Personally, for me, I live in Europe. I couldn't go without WhatsApp on my phone because that's my main line of messaging, communication. Other people who aren't comfortable using a physical map anymore, they need a navigation. And a lot of the feedback from their customers comes with a sort of caveat, like, I would love this phone. I would love to be disconnected, but I need this one thing. And of course, that one thing is different for lots of people. So in terms of decision making, they just have to hold a North Star pretty clear in their design teams, and they just have to stick with it.
Okay, you mentioned one of the companies that's getting into this space, but we've seen recently new releases from Samsung, and Apple's releasing its new iPhone soon. Those phones are going to be jam-packed with different apps and capabilities. So who are the companies that are making the minimalist phones?
None of them are big manufacturers or contenders. They are, from what I understand from my reporting, very independently funded or crowdfunded companies. Couple have been sort of founded and backed by entrepreneurs in the tech space that have used their own funds to start a company and have sort of bolstered that by doing these crowdfunding campaigns. One company called Light, who creates the Light phone, they're based in Brooklyn. They have had some investment from VC firms such as Able Partners in New York, and that fits in with that fund's slow tech investment strand, which is under this sort of mental health wellness gap thesis that these VC companies are looking at. So this kind of purposeful investment rather than, I would probably say, anything, incredibly strategically financial.
All right, so there are a number of new companies here. How do they plan to compete with the big established phone makers?
So the minimalist phone manufacturers would say, well, if everyone in the world that was a bit conscious of how much they were using their smartphone went out and bought a phone like this, then they'll make loads of money. I think they're also conscious that that is likely not to happen. So in lieu of expecting that to happen, what they're doing is creating different devices that come from the same design principle of minimalism and very, very light connection or complete disconnection. So, for instance, a couple have created alarm clocks that allow you to wake up in the morning without having your smartphone in the room. One company, Medita, has made a watch that helps you breathe better and helps you meditate. These are different product lines I think we're going to be likely to see more of from these companies rather than them reiterating these phones over and over again.
All right, that's our reporter, Katie Dayton. Katie, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Zoe. Put that iPhone away.
And that's it for Tech News Briefing this week. Our supervising producer is Chris Zinsley, our executive producer is Kateri Yoka, and I'm your host, Zoe Thomas. Thanks for listening and have a great weekend.